Hello, my name is James Nicolau. This is going to be video 1 of 3 for my CS499 capstone class, my Module 2 code review. So through all the videos, I am going to be covering the 3 different categories for this course: software design engineering, algorithms, data structures, and databases. And I have an artifact for each one. And within these categories and artifacts, the artifacts are good example of these categories, and I'm going to go over how the code works, if it works, what is it supposed to do, going to review the code, and then going to kind of talk about some areas of that I want to improve or edit or enhance, and then talk about how it's going to match up with the 5 course outcomes. So the first one we got here is going to be for the software engineering and design portion from a class earlier that I had, CS210. It was my first project, one of my earliest classes that I took in this major. It's a simple clock. So this clock, to start it, gives me a hello user thing, what to do. So I'm going to enter time. We'll just do 1, 2, 3. So now I have a clock that states it's 1:02 a.m. in 3 seconds. And then it has a 24-hour clock. And then these menu options allow me to iterate through. So I can iterate by an hour, a minute, a second. And now you can see that each of these have gone up by 1 here. The 2, 3, and 4 used to be a 1, 2, 3. And then if I want to exit the program, hit 4. So going through the code, it's all in one main function. Not really in love with that. I mean, at the time it made sense for the application, but should I want to take this clock and do a lot more with it, which I do, I think it'll help to kind of break everything up. So its organization is not stellar. It's not horrible because it is organized in each function, but it's kind of like the concept of a sentence and a run-on sentence. It's technically okay, but it could be a lot better. But the beauty is that this code actually works. Storage is efficient and inefficient. It's efficient for all in one place, but it's like I said, the run-on sentence kind of messy in that regards. But I do like that I did well with documentation and organization. My include items, and then the namespace standard at the top. Variables that are global are defined all at the top in one section. Each function has a clear and concise name, and then explains what it does. What I would like to see is that, maybe explain a little more of what's going on, in the functions themselves, like if hour, yada yada, if hour less than 12, if hour equals 0. It would help kind of explain how each one works, but it does technically tell you what it's going to do. It's going to make me a little more clear in each of the function items. The menu, pretty clear. The main has no commenting, which it really should, to help break up and explain what's going on, what's being loaded maybe. If we go over like the variables in that layout, variables, very simple, very clear, very concise. Integers are all integers, it's the right values. Strings are strings via toString. So overall, it's done well, thankfully. So arithmetic, all the arithmetic, there's not really a ton. It iterates by 1, or I set a value, and it's then just a bunch of comparisons. So I'm adding 1. It's not like I'm adding any floats to integers or float to string. It's right data type to right data type. The variables are right data type to right data type. Everything is being compared correctly. And then if I'm going to go over, the only loop in the entire code is the while exit check. So this exit check is true which I can always just put true and then do a break setup in the if function here later. It'd be a little more clear, but either way, does the same concept. It runs until the exit check is set false by if these are options 4, and then exits the program. Security, there's no form of verification input. It does convert any input to strings, which helps, but that's about it. And then the user input actually does not. So it takes the clocks and sets of a string. So the user input is always an integer, and that could be a problem because if it's not 1, 2, or 3, or 4, it could cause some undefined behavior because it's C++, and memory management's a little messy in C++. With that being said, everything else is fairly secure because the only way anyone can get in to this program is just the user options. There's no other entry for the individual to get through. And then there's no pointers, there's no indexes. It's all very straight, simple memory. So overall, yeah, that's a bit of an oopsie that'll have to get fixed for security, but everything else is pretty clear and concise and neat. So that's kind of going over the code itself. Overall, it works, but you can definitely tell it's an earlier model. Security was not really a thing I thought of at that point. A lot of these if-else could be try-catch if needed to be. There's definitely ways I could revamp this to make it a little prettier. What I want to do with this is I want to split this up into a bunch of different groups to make it more clear. So yes, I can keep throwing all the code in the main file, but then it's just going to get longer and longer and longer and going to just be unholy, unruly, and unmanageable. Considering how simple this program is, 186 lines is kind of a bit to look through if I'm only looking for a couple things. So I want to take all the like items and, put them in different files. So global variables is good. Clock 12, clock 24, they should be in their own. So there should be like a clock file that I can modify the clocks and then call them as needed. All these menus that are set randomly everywhere, I'll just do menus. And outputs, just put them all in separate items. So if I can have all these outprinted items in their own section, it'll save a lot of space in this main function, literally through scrolling. And then time. So time I want to do a little differently. So this only iterates by a minute at a time, a second at a time, an hour at a time. I want to have this set time anywhere. And then I'm going to have it where I can account for time zones. So I'll have kind of like a menu and everything set up like, hey, if you want to account for a time zone, how many hours ahead do you want to go? How many hours behind do you want to go? Kind of spruce it up a little bit. And in terms of the items that it will focus on for course outcomes, I want to focus on design, develop, and deliver professional quality oral, written, and visual communications that are coherent, technically sound, and appropriately adapted to specific audience context. So more or less, it is technically sound. It should add some better commenting to explain what's going on, and it will work for the target audience of whoever wants to use the clock. I needed to design and evaluate computing solutions that solve a given problem using algorithmic principles. So with that one as well, it's put in values, iterate the clock, and it technically works, but I also want to add a couple features to make that a little more robust. And then develop a security mindset that anticipates adversarial exploits in software architecture. So C++, I love coding in it, but I realize all the memory issues and management that goes with it. So I need to be better about trying and catching inputs and trying and catching operations, especially with user input, in case there's malicious inputs or attack. Like there's no username or password in this one, but the fact that I have it set up where they can put in anything, and if it's not an integer, the program won't run. or it won't run well. Potentially, there's ways to exploit it. Like if I put in a number that's bigger than the integer bounds, that could cause problems. So I need to revamp that and make sure that that is not possible. Easiest way is maybe take the user option, just convert it to a string, and all user input make it a string. There's a lot more space in there that can be abused, and anything can be converted to a string. And I could try to convert it back to an integer if I have to, or I could just leave it as if user option equals 4 is just a specific character. There's plenty of ways to do it. But all in all, that is my code review for Artifact1 and Section 1. Thank you.